This right here is my M4 iPad Pro 11-inch, and as you can see, it's right now just monitoring everything that's coming from my camera. It's connected over Bluetooth, and this is one of the ways that I used this iPad, and I continue to use it, and it's such a great and helpful tool. But what I wanted to talk about in this video is whether or not I would actually buy this if I had to do it all over again. Now, I don't want to bore you with all the different specs. I think we all know how great of an iPad this is in terms of its performance, but day to day, like to be very honest, I don't take full advantage of it. I don't think iPad OS is able to take full advantage of it. I just did a video on the iPad mini 7 and why I think it's still the best iPad despite having this iPad Pro. And that is simply because like there are moments where you just look at this iPad and you're like, this is so awesome. Like everything from the screen to its performance to just the size. Like I love the 11-inch size because I feel like it's not too large to where it's hard to carry, but at the same time, it's not too small for those like work specific things. And that's the purpose of this 11-inch is that I wanted to be able to do work related stuff. But see, one of the problems is when you leave the house, there are moments that I'm like, you know what? I will be fine with just my iPad today. I don't need to take the MacBook. But then the problem is that you can't really project what you're going to be doing for the day. Sometimes random things come up, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation with this iPad Pro that you can't open a specific file or you can't do a specific thing, and you're like, well, now I got to put this off until I get home. And that's one problem that we're going to continue to have until iPad OS is able to really get refined and get to a place where it can be used as a proper substitute. Because as a standalone device, this could be. It's great to have a touch interface. I've said this many times, and I am one of those people I would love to take full advantage of this iPad Pro, but simply put, like I just can't. Like I'm limited because of iPad OS. See, if you buy this and then you buy the Magic Keyboard and then you run into issues like this is where it always like that guilt comes in. You're like, wow, I paid a lot of money for this and I love it and it's got this wonderful display. It's such a portable machine, such a capable machine, but then you're stuck. You know, a product or tool is only as good as the utility that you can get out of it. And that's where something like the M4 MacBook Air just fits in perfectly fine because you're like, you know what? I'd love to have an iPad and that would be awesome, but I'm just going to skip this and go for the MacBook instead. So that way you never run into that instance, like I explained, where something comes up and you just can't do it just because you have an iPad. That's why, like, with time owning a product, there's always moments that come up where you're like, maybe I shouldn't have bought it. Like right now, out of all the different Apple products I have the iPhone 16e, the M4 Mac Mini, the M4 MacBook Air, the M4 iPad Pro. All of these fit in perfectly. I think the only device that ever really makes me want to question my purchase is the iPad Pro. As great as it is, it just leaves more to be desired. That's just how it's going to be, and I'm well aware of that. But regardless of that, I don't want to sell this for almost half the price and just lose all that money. So I wouldn't go back and buy this again. Like if I had the option at that time, like I was just so disappointed with the iPad mini 7 that I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'll just get a Pro iPad. Maybe that's better for me. And I was trading in a bunch of things, so that's why I felt like it was a great decision. And like I said, I don't want to seem like ungrateful. I love this iPad and I will continue to get utility out of it for many years to come because I'm one of those people like I don't just buy things because they're new and they're shiny. I'm not going to upgrade without any kind of need. And if you've been on my channel, you know that about me. You know that I always am very cautious about the things that I'm buying and I like to be very practical. But I think that this was one of those impractical decisions I made. And part of it was I was trading in a bunch of things. So, I when you have like store credit and you're giving older devices for something new, I guess your decision changes a bit as opposed to like shelling out that $1,000 from your pocket again. So that's what kind of played into it. Now, when I was thinking about making this video, I'm like, okay, so what do you highlight in this $1,000 product and what makes this iPad special? For starters, it's very thin and light. That is a great addition because if you're somebody that's coming from these smaller iPads, then it just makes it that much easier. Like I came from a mini 6, and when I got this iPad at the 11-inch size, it's still comfortable for me to hold in my hand and use because that's how I use an iPad 95% of the time. I very rarely am attaching the keyboard to it. Then the next thing I thought about is that, okay, this has ProMotion, which is a faster refresh rate. But for me, honestly, I have no problem switching between this and going to my 16E. And matter of fact, those are like two of the devices that I probably use the most on a day-to-day basis is my iPhone 16E and then the iPad Pro. And I have no problem, but there's some people that once they get a ProMotion device or a faster refresh rate device, they can't use anything that doesn't have a faster refresh rate. And that's totally fine. If that's what suits you, that's what suits you. I have no problem with that. But that's one of those highlighting things. And especially it's going to be noticeable when you're playing things like games. The next thing is the M4 chip. And honestly, you're not really taking advantage of it because what you do day to day on an iPad is nothing that requires that level of performance. And on top of that, just the limitation of iPad OS won't allow you to fully take advantage of this. Don't get me wrong, there are people that use specific apps that are made for the M series chips, and they probably love these iPads, but I'm not one of those because I the apps that I do want to use, they are not fully optimized to be like a duplicate of the desktop version from macOS. And then the last thing is the display. And I would have to say that is probably my favorite thing about this iPad, just how good the display looks. I don't notice ProMotion, but every time I do use this display, whether it's for a game or watching videos, I can just notice a huge difference. And that's like going between my MacBook Air, the iPad Pro, the iPhone. So every time you look at this display, it will be a treat, but that's where you're like, okay, do I really need to spend just $1,000 for this really good display that's thin and light that I can hold in my hand? Because that's what it seems like to me that people end up doing with these iPads. And it doesn't make sense, but hey, if that's you, that's you. This iPad Pro is very great, but it leaves a ton to be desired. So if you are looking at the iPad Pro M4, I would say really consider the MacBook Air because that is the next best option, especially now with the M4 chips. I can tell you firsthand, I've had such a great experience with it. It does a lot more, and there'll never be like that moment where you're like, oh man, I should have gotten the MacBook Pro. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to make you want to desire another counterpart device. So with this, as beautiful as it is, it's like a classic car that's sitting in the garage. It just needs to be, just revitalized and brought back to life. And that is only going to happen the day that Apple decides to enhance iPad OS and just really let users get the most out of these iPads. Until then, I know that I'm not going to buy another iPad Pro. There's no way. I think this is more than good for many, many years to come. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up as it really helps me out. Comment down below with your own thoughts, and I will talk to you there. And most importantly, like always, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.